other facilities where people had half their rib cage removed and had to learn to walk again because their weight was now off balance, right? Their whole body weight had shifted as a result.
Wow.
So it could be pretty intense.
Wow. So Lydia, do you have any experience with ghost sightings or hauntings or anything that while you were working there that you saw that was out of the ordinary?
The only thing that I really questioned while I was working there was the bathroom in the downstairs lobby. There was a sink that kept malfunctioning one night, and we couldn't figure out why. It just wouldn't turn off, and it would just turn on by itself. And they were battery operated. It was one of those automatic ones. So they went in there and they changed the batteries like several times, but we still couldn't figure out what was causing that.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty much the only thing that I noticed.
Ghosts like to wash their hands.
Yeah.
How about coworkers? Had you heard any weird stories from coworkers or people that had been there for a while?
No, unfortunately, I didn't hear of any stories. There was a coworker that I had who was working there for the same reason I was. And she wanted to have experiences. I mean, she would walk the property. I would walk the property, just at night, just to see, if anything was happening. But we couldn't get anything, and there were no reports from guests or anything. I mean, there was one report from a guest from a room on the first floor that their alarm clock just automatically turned on by itself, like the radio on it. And they couldn't figure out why or how or what. And they heard a scream coming from it.
That's spooky.
That is spooky.
Yeah, definitely. But that was it, pretty much. I mean, we didn't really hear anything else, unfortunately. I wanted to, but nothing.
Not for a lack of trying, huh?
Nope.
How about you, Zach? Do you have any secondhand or even firsthand knowledge of paranormal stuff happening there?
I've heard stories from folks over the years about, and certainly I'm not going to advocate for this, but we know that people sometimes go into buildings without permission, right? Because they're curious, and I probably did my share of that as a teenager myself. But I've heard stories certainly from people who've been in there about hearing a lot of noises. I've heard stories of shadow figures from people who were in the building before it was renovated and things like that. Kind of standard fare in a way. It's an interesting building, and it really was, like I say, the energy coming off of it was wild. You could definitely get near the building and just feel this sense of heaviness and this sense of sort of, oppression, almost like a sense of weight on you.
Yeah, I've experienced that there. Actually, yeah. Before the hotel was, put in place there, just even driving by it, sometimes you could just feel that heaviness.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's hard to put your finger on it, but it's almost like a depression,
Exactly.
It's weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I used to feel when I would sit in the park behind it. 'Cause I would just, I used to walk around town a lot, and I would sometimes stop and rest there. And that's exactly what it felt like a depression slowly settling over you that was just really heavy and inexplicable. Like, where is this coming from? And it took me a little while when I first experienced it. It took me a minute to connect it to the building because I didn't realize what the building was at that time, way back. But yeah, it was intense. And definitely I could say, I've been near of course, we go near there pretty often now because we're at the press club so often, but I definitely don't feel that anymore off of the facility. So I think they did probably remove a lot of the kind of touch points that the spirits may have been attached to in there, would be my guess. I mean, because it's a very different place.
Yes.
I've been in there when it was the Memorial Hospital, and it's a lot different than it is now,
Mm-hmm.
It was very sterile and cold in there.
I mean, they're not happy places, right? I'm actually a behavioral health professional, and and they're still not happy places, right? There's a lot going on anytime you walk into any facility like that, and that definitely is one that had been around for a while. So I mean, you're bound to have, as you said, all the trauma and suicides and things that happen there. My understanding is that I have heard that even staff that worked there were affected in terms of like their overall sort of kind of sense of well-being, Yeah, exactly. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, when you're in there day in and day out in that kind of condition, it's going to have an impact on you. So, I mean, I think, and it's just bound to carry those things within the walls, within the stones of the building. There's a lot of belief in the paranormal field that even the material the building is made of can absorb that energy. And I think that, is probably part of the reason for the change as well, because, it was extensive renovations. I'll be honest, I'm sort of surprised that they're charging as much as they are for rooms now and not offering any kind of ghost tours or anything. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely up there in terms of hotel prices in Albuquerque.
It is, and it's a missed opportunity. I mean, I'm just going to say, for me personally, I'm not going to spend that much for a hotel locally unless I can go investigate.
Yeah, it's just an interesting story, and I think that probably a lot of New Mexicans have experienced what we talked about in terms of, especially people in Albuquerque. You walk by the building, whether it was 20, 30 years ago or whatever, you just felt that. If you're sensitive at all to any of that kind of stuff, you felt it for sure. And, I'm pretty sensitive to that stuff. And so I immediately knew what you were talking about when you brought that up.
Yeah, I love that you said that the way that you did too, because you nailed it. And I was like, oh, so I was actually going to ask you if you had a sensitivity, because you sound like you do. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a weirdo. I've always kind of been in tune to, things that might be going on beneath the surface. So, and that hospital was definitely, I used to walk by it all the time. When I was much younger, I used to walk to work from downtown to close to the university. And I would always cross the street before I got to that corner because I didn't want to be on that side of the road.
Valid. Yeah. Totally valid. I get it.
All right, Alex, anything else you want to say to our listeners?
No, keep listening and enjoy.
And go be spooky somewhere.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, 26.
Go be spooky.
We like you guys. Bye.